Hello, everyone, and welcome to iCritic Live. This is a podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. I'm your host, Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. And folks, we have a topic. This probably isn't as big as the Robert Downey Jr. topic. It's probably not going to be as exciting as the interview with Ken Penders, writer of the Sonic the Hedgehog comics, which is still scheduled for tomorrow. So if you want to tune into that live and maybe get a question or two answered from Ken Penders, make sure to subscribe to the iCritic YouTube channel and tune in around 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now then, this is all about a trailer that was released. Now, I don't normally comment on trailers, but the reaction of this one does make me want to address this topic again, because it kind of goes to show that film Twitter, and particularly film Twitter activists, don't really realize how this industry works and how little people seem to care about certain things. And we can debate whether that's right or wrong till the cows come home, but, well, let me explain what's happening. So, Netflix released a trailer of Skydance Animation's next animated film, Spellbound. Now, this is a movie that is being directed by Vicky Jensen. She was one of the co-directors of Shrek. She wasn't the main director. Most people credit Andrew Adamson as the key director for the first two Shrek movies, and then he would go on to direct a couple Chronicles of Narnia films and all that. But she was a co-director for that movie, therefore she gets to claim she is one of the directors of Shrek. Now, this is her first solo project, and good for her. I'm glad that she is able to make a solo film. Let's see what she can do. But the movie is also being produced by John Lasseter, the former head of Pixar and Disney feature animation. Now, John Lasseter left... did I accidentally swear? Ooh. I might have to check that explicit content box right there. But in all seriousness, John Lasseter left Disney and Pixar under not so great circumstances. He had some allegations of inappropriate behavior, theft of ideas, and basically preventing women from being promoted within the company. Now, these are not good things to be accused of. These are things that certainly probably shouldn't happen, but if you are familiar with Hollywood at all, you'll know that this is kind of par of the course. Now, I understand the argument that par of the course does not mean we should excuse toxic behavior. I totally agree with that, and the things that people were putting up with under people like Harvey Weinstein was unforgivable. Like, that was silent for so long is not one of America's proudest moments. But you must understand that John Lasseter does not have Harvey Weinstein level accusations. He does not have the Bill Cosby level of accusations. His big thing was like he hugged too much, and he would get drunk and kiss people at parties and stuff. I mean, again, not appropriate, but not quite on the same level as someone who is a hardened criminal and should be behind bars for life, one of which is behind bars for life, the other of which got out because the prosecutors made a big, as my parents would say, a big boo-boo. So, but I knew that when Lasseter was let go from Disney that it would not be long before he got back on his feet and someone would pick him up, because, the man did direct and write a couple good Toy Story movies. He also, did A Bug's Life. He was one of the ones who would approve movies like WALL-E and Ratatouille. He did meddle with those films, and some people don't like that, and I'm kind of mixed about it. He was doing what a producer does. I don't like that Brenda Chapman was removed from Brave and replaced with Mark Andrews, but the guy who, Jan Pavinka, I think his name was, the guy who was removed from Ratatouille, even though it was his idea, and replaced with Brad Bird, well, until Inside Out came out, that was Pixar's best film. So, he has a producer, he does what he has to do for the movie, and that sometimes means replacing creatives. Now, Disney and Pixar fans don't like that. They'd like to see that original version. I mean, even Brad Bird said with Ratatouille, I would like to see the original version of Ratatouille as well, but it wasn't my vision, and it's not what I would have done. Therefore, I didn't make that movie. And because Lasseter's allegations were of a much less serious concern, they were not illegal, and they did not rise to the level of we have to fire this guy. It was he technically did something wrong, and we'll kind of see how the room feels, but we'll let him kind of ride his contract out, and we'll give him a nice severance package. So it was no surprise when, less than a week after he left Pixar and Disney, he was hired by Skydance. I knew it was going to happen. And ever since then, it seems like the film Twitter community on X, particularly the animation community on X, they seem to really have a hard-on for watching Skydance films fail. They don't want Lasseter to have a comeback. But he's having a major comeback now that Skydance is merging with Paramount Pictures. Lasseter is going to be basically the head guy at Paramount Animation and Nickelodeon Animation as well. Now, don't worry, folks. I don't think Lasseter really cares that much about getting too involved in Nickelodeon. But, the bottom line is he's still going to be a big deal, and he's probably not going away anytime soon. Now, the first film released under him was called Luck, and that's on Apple TV+. It's an okay film. It's not a great film, but it's okay. And this next one that they're coming up with is called Spellbound. And it is first of all, there's two things that stick out in the advertising. First of all, it's advertising a movie with a bunch of pop songs, but this movie has original songs by Alan Menken. So it's a musical, and that kind of follows in the trend of Hollywood not marketing musicals as musicals. They're not doing a very good job of letting people know that Wicked is a musical, even though it's widely known that it is. They covered up the fact that Wonka with Timothée Chalamet was a musical. They also made it look like Hugh Grant was going to play a much bigger role in the movie than he actually did. Hollywood is just kind of afraid to admit when they've got a musical coming out. Also, it should be noted that it's not like this is new ground for animation. The trailer really reminds me a lot of the Tangled trailer, where Flynn Rider was fighting Rapunzel's hair with Pink's Trouble playing in the background. And for those of you who saw the Tangled movie, you'll know that the movie is nothing like that trailer. And I had heard from animators personally before that movie came out that they hated that trailer. They didn't know why Disney was selling it that way. So this is not a new thing. And so to be advertising this as the way a Hollywood executive would consider selling an animated movie to kids these days, they're making it a little edgy and stuff like that, I actually kind of doubt that the movie's even going to be give off the vibe, I should say, that this trailer does. We might be in for a genuine surprise, because a studio who wants to hide the fact that it's a musical and that the great Alan Menken, who has won about a dozen or so Oscars for writing songs and scores, is doing the music. I don't know. I think they might be a little deceptive on how this movie is. But that's one thing that's been discussed. The other thing, and the reason that I'm kind of making this podcast, because I think we need to remind ourselves how this industry works and how people think even, is that the movie is advertising this as from the mind who brought you Toy Story and Toy Story 2 and A Bug's Life and Cars. Oh yeah, it also brought you Cars 2, a little tongue-in-cheekish, and from one of the directors of Shrek. And that's what's bothering people. Film Twitter is sharing these posters. They're commenting on this trailer and saying, from the guy who brought you Toy Story, the guy is named John Lasseter and created a toxic working environment for women, and he should never be allowed in this industry again. And why are we not talking about this? What are we doing? And look, here's the thing, folks. I've been pretty clear about this all along. If someone does something illegal, they should be brought to court. They should be tried by the court of law. If the court finds them guilty, they should go to jail or serve whatever time that they are sentenced to and pay their debt to society, and then they can come back to society and contribute again. If they are found not guilty, they are allowed to continue to work and make money. And by the way, if no one bothers to bring charges and they're not being brought to court, then guess what? They have a right to live as well. No one ever officially brought charges against John Lasseter, and as a result, he is allowed to work. Now, that's one point. Now, here's the other point. Why do you think the studios are highlighting that this is from the mind, which really it isn't? I actually think that we're not going to be seeing Lasseter's true influence on this company until after this movie, because I think this movie was a little bit in production when Lasseter was brought on board. But the movies from like Richard Moore and Brad Bird and Nathan Greeno, those are being built from the ground up under Lasseter's watchful eye. That's what we're going to be seeing if he can, work his magic. But to get to the original point, when people see From the Mind of Toy Story and A Bug's Life in Cars, they're not thinking, oh, that's John Lasseter, the creep who was ousted from Pixar and Disney for being a little inappropriate at parties. I can guarantee you right now, they're not doing that. In fact, you want to know what the average person is thinking when they cite that reference, that this is from someone who made those movies? People are thinking, oh, I like Toy Story. I like The Bug's Life, so therefore I will watch this as well. Now, I think bigger picture overall, it still frustrates me that the directors who make these animated movies are not being name by name. They're not saying from Vicky Jensen, one of the directors who brought you Shrek. When you see a preview for a Brad Bird film, you don't see from Brad Bird, the director of The Incredibles and Ratatouille. You don't see that. So Hollywood still has a long way to go in acknowledging the directors by name. And it's not because, and they are not doing this, not because they don't want people to Google John Lasseter's name and dig up all the dirt, if you will. They're doing it because people don't connect with John Lasseter. The average person does not. But you know what they do connect with? They connect with the fact that, oh, someone who worked on Toy Story made this. Oh, someone who directed Shrek is directing this. I like those movies. Therefore, I want to see this movie. That is what the point of the advertising is. And the thing is, people can disagree with this all they want. They can disagree with the fact that Lasseter got a second chance to work in the animation industry. They can object to the fact that he is running the animation business now. Heck, they can even say like, oh, judging from this trailer, Disney is not sweating at all. Guys, Disney's sweating. Maybe not from this particular movie, but keep in mind, this is a company that worked with him for a couple decades, and he is responsible for the company making a lot of money. He's the one who pitched the Cars Land idea. He produced movies like Frozen and Big Hero 6 and Wreck-It Ralph. He's the one who made some changes to Princess and the Frog and Meet the Robinsons, and by all accounts, those movies are better because of the suggestions he made. You don't have to like people to know that they're talented, and that's what businesses don't care about. Like, look, as long as you didn't do anything illegal, we can hire you. So long as there are no more complaints, and apparently is a clause stipulation that if complaints come out about how Lasseter is treating employees and women and stuff, he is on the hook for all the damages, so he's going to behave himself. But the general public also doesn't know who John Lasseter is. They really don't know who Vicky Jensen is. So the studio is going to market the movies they made, and the conversation of should this person be directing or producing movies, do you know what he's done? You know, the public does not care. They don't care, and they probably never will, if we're being completely honest. The only reason Harvey Weinstein's name started getting scrubbed from some of his movies that were bought out of bankruptcy is because his name was a name people were familiar with, and they just didn't want to associate it with the movie anymore. So that's how that works. And that's also where we're going to leave this one, but I do want to know what you think of the Spellbound movie. Are you going to be watching it? You probably will, because it's going to be on Netflix. And that's the other thing about this, is that Netflix has a very different threshold for what they consider successful and what they consider not successful. It's much easier to get people to watch things if it's quote unquote free or part of the buffet, if you will. I will personally be going to the Bay Theater a week before it opens so I can see it in theaters, because I like to see animation in theaters. But I would like to know what you think about this movie. Are you going to watch it? Do you think the general public would care that John Lasseter is producing this, or do you think that it's just people like us who are online all the time that, care about these sorts of things? I would love to know. So if you're listening to this podcast in a place where comments and reviews can be left, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic and any other topics that we talk about. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, how about we make it official? Why don't you subscribe? We're on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you use. And as always, everyone, take care of yourself, and I'll see you at the movies.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters, and I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running, and of course is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to. It is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.